Shining bright, sunshine in the sky. Megan and Tammy here to testify, spreading love, laughter and good vibes too. The Fat Girl Chronicles, we're breaking through.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. I'm Tammy.
And I'm Megan.
And together we are
the Fat Girl Flippers.
And this is the Fat Girl Chronicles podcast.
Yeah, so welcome anyone who's watching on YouTube. Thank you so much for checking us out. Make sure to share our channel and hit that subscribe button. Also make sure to hit the bell so you can hear that we are uploaded every Friday. And comment below. We love seeing all the comments.
Yes.
And then if you prefer to listen to us, you know, without all of this and just
without seeing us,
just audio, we are also on a ton of different podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Podcast Addict. There we go. So feel free to check us out there as well. So yeah. So today is a new day. So what do you want to talk about?
Well, we were discussing this week about talking about boundaries because it's something I think we both struggle with and have to work on.
The big B word.
And I think a lot of us do.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty common.
Yeah, boundaries? Yeah. It's funny, like, the way I think about it is, like, so I guess I can officially say, like, my old job, weird, was a youth outreach worker. And so part of what I did was, like, do programming with different youth. And so, you know, when you're working with a lot of youth that are struggling with things, particularly with youth that have been in care or are in kind of vulnerable situations, a lot of the programming is around, like, healthy relationships and boundaries. So I talk about boundaries quite a bit in my previous work. And so I always like to think of boundaries as, like, the fence to your house.
Yes.
So, like, you are your own house. You have control of, like, who comes around you and what comes around you. And then you've got this fence. And when. And so you've got, like, this fence, and you can kind of determine who comes past that fence or what comes past that fence and what doesn't. I mean, it's a pretty simplistic kind of image. But I think it's powerful in that, you know, you kind of hold your own power, and you do have the ability to kind of weed out what you don't want.
You saying that makes me think of, like, working through things and learning to set boundaries and stuff is like building your fence.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true.
Right? Because as you work on it and learn and grow and get better at setting boundaries, you are literally building your fence.
That's true, because if you're someone like us, who really, really, really struggles with boundaries and is, like, both of us, I mean, I'm not going to speak for Tammy, even though I know the truth.
You know me very well, so I'm not, go ahead.
Yeah, we're both people pleasers. Like, I really, really am a people pleaser. I'm someone who just, wants to make sure people like me, which is, you know, a detriment to a lot of mental health and everything else.
Yes.
But, so boundaries can be really hard. So that's a good idea. Like, once you start building boundaries with people and different things.
And the other thing is, you can't do better until you know better. That's why I think everyone should go to counseling, no matter what.
Yes.
Find a counselor you love and don't accept anything less, and you know, start to work on yourself. And I mean, Megan and I have discussed before about we're different age ranges, and for me, I'm still learning, and I'm 55. So don't be afraid of being older and, you know, like, thinking I can't do this, or I'm set in my ways or whatever. You can still learn. You may not be that way every day, but you know, you can remind yourself that yes, this is, you know, my fence, and I own the gate. I heard a great analogy today from my friend Paula.
Oh yeah, you were saying.
Yeah. So what Paula said about boundaries is, because she used to teach this too. She used to work with vulnerable women. Oh, okay. So she used to tell them and show them with a zipper. She said, if you have your zipper on your pants and it's coming up the correct way,
Yeah.
everybody can get in, right? Like anybody can unzip that.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you turn that zipper around and it's on the inside of your pants,
Yeah.
only you have control of who you let in, right?
Yeah.
So it's
That's
like
kind of interesting.
yeah, and
Makes sense.
nothing sexual about
No,
it. Just
but
like
that makes sense.
the zipper, and she said she used to like actually show a zipper. You know,
Oh,
like,
really?
pass around zippers. Yeah,
That is so cool. We should
Yeah.
have brought like a model house with the fence and be like,
and all the little people.
yeah, and all the people and be like, this is what.
Well, that would have been
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Why didn't you think of that
I
earlier?
know.
No, that would have been fun.
That would have been
But
fun,
anyway,
yeah.
the analogy's there, so you can understand that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think it's hard. I think that when you struggle with boundaries, because a lot of what we're talking about now is like control.
Yes.
So like when you struggle with boundaries, you often, I mean, I've felt like I don't have control in a lot of, like,
Me
I
too.
can't control this, you know, there's no more options for me anyway. You know, if I let this person down, the world is literally gonna implode and everyone's gonna hate me and my life, I'm gonna like die into a black dark hole if I don't do this. When the reality is that you have more control and choices than you think you do.
And
yeah.
the hardest thing I have found about setting boundaries is setting them with the people that I love.
Oh, it's brutal. It's brutal.
I know.
It's so brutal.
Like for me, I have the one of the places I struggle to create boundaries is the phone. I notice
Okay.
you have gotten really good at
Yes.
you know,
Yes. Yeah.
and I notice that, and I appreciate that you're doing that,
Yeah.
even if it means that you're not answering me or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I understand that, you know, your personal time is your personal time.
Yeah.
And even if someone sends you a message, that doesn't mean you have to run and open it and
Yeah.
answer it. I mean, you can look at it. That doesn't mean you have to answer it right that second.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gotten to the point, I think, in life where a lot of times we feel like we're tethered to that phone and we must answer and we must tell people right
the
away.
phone.
Whereas you before used to have time to think about things, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
The world is different in the way that we interact with people now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to hustle culture. Like, so, I mean, like I said, I was a youth worker. I work in like the social work, social services sector. And, you know, the reality is in like my line of work is that, you know, much like a lot of other health professions, things do feel like life or death, or that there's a crisis going on. So like, it is hard. I've witnessed a lot of workers who really struggle to set like that work life boundary, and so it often blends in. And then you, like you said, like when I, you know, even a couple months ago, like during my placement, I've been a lot better. But like when I was working as a child and youth worker, like, yeah, like I'd have I would be accessible 24/7. They
Yes.
couldn't get me on my work phone. You can get me on my personal, like, absolutely. Like, and that is just the norm in the field. And it's a shame because that's, you know, when we're talking about burnout.
I was just going to say, and that's what
Right.
happens to what I want to say are the good workers.
Yeah.
And the ones that really love their job and love the people and love what they're doing.
Yeah.
Is the ones that burn out because they're the ones that are, again, tethered
Yeah.
to the phone and available to everyone 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say to you is I know that you've set boundaries with me, and it's been good for me.
Yeah.
It's very healthy for me, and I appreciate that you've set boundaries.
Yeah.
Because it teaches me that I can set boundaries too.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
I've learned
gosh.
from it.
Absolutely. And so as she says that, I'm like, what boundaries?
No, but
so that's
I mean,
good
with the
because
phone,
I mean,
the phone,
okay. I see
like,
what
and
you're
not
saying.
being available, and
Yeah.
like talking, you know, setting a time to talk instead of like immediately having to run over here or
For sure.
You know what? Because in the beginning, that's what it was like, and then like for a while, I had a hard time with, oh my God, Megan, like I don't see Megan, and but then I realized like there are other people in the world besides Megan, and like I can do things, and I can, you know, like.
It's so funny because I mean that's good for me to know because I was setting that without even knowing I was setting that. Like,
Yeah.
But you're right. I have, especially as of late, like you know, like my placement is super heavy emotionally, as child welfare is. And I'm also going to school full time. I'm doing like 3 courses right now. So like there's so much going on, you know, like summer and everything else. And so I found I'm not like as emotionally available as normal. So I think it's like
even physically available,
even physically
like to
available.
do things together.
Yeah. So I think it like this boundary, you know, I've really, ever since I started therapy, and I'm not like going to therapy weekly or anything, even though I probably should be, and it would be even better for me. I do feel that there's been a shift, but it's been kind of unconscious as well. So that was like an unconscious boundary. So that's kind of cool. That's like a pat on the back kind of thing.
No, I've really noticed it. And I have to say, like, over the last couple of years, I've watched you grow and develop and come into your own almost, right? And
ditto.
No, but for me, it's almost like seeing a child of mine, you know, do well. And I'm so proud of you because you really put the work in, right? And I know that it's been hard, and I know that there's been a lot of, you know, like late nights, all your weekend time, doing your schoolwork and all of that stuff, and you still managed to find time to fit me in, Richard in, you know, like your family, all that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that because I know how damn busy you are.
This was not how the podcast
I know.
was
Now we're going to be crying about
I know. She's like tearing up. Oh my gosh.
But I mean, I really want you to understand that I've seen the growth, and it's been humongous.
Thank you.
So it means a lot.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm going to say thank you. Because my initial reactions would be like, I can't stand it.
No, you deserve you deserve it because you've worked hard.
Yeah. I will also say, though, that you've also grown a substantial amount. Like
yes, and I believe truly that was some of that was because of you setting boundaries, and it made me step out of my comfort zone and learn that, you know, I can do other things and I can make other decisions, and I can think about things for a while instead of reacting like a crazy person.
Well, think about this morning. You got up and went for a stroll.
Yeah, I'm practicing. Because nature is my jam, as you guys know.
Tammy loves nature.
And I'm living in a place that there isn't very much nature.
No, at all.
At all. It's very much a concrete jungle.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is when I wake up in the morning, I don't think about anything else. I just take my medications and I drink my Boost and I get dressed and I go outside. If it's not raining, I go outside and go around the block and try to see the deer. Today I picked Megan some flowers, and it's just nice because
for those who are watching, these are the flowers.
Yeah.
And
there's a sweet place just around the corner from here that planted wildflowers all along the sidewalk, and I would have never discovered that if I hadn't have gone out of my comfort zone.
Love it.
So, yeah,
I love it. I think both of us have, I mean, I can remember, and I don't know how long ago this was. Both of us are so afraid of people being mad at us. So I can't remember. It was probably less than a year ago. We were going to do a live or something, and I said there was some sort of, I couldn't do it or you couldn't do it. Anyway, we're kind of to this point where, like, I don't know what the exchange was. It wasn't anything like crazy, but it was like, when I used to be able to set boundaries, or when I really started focusing on boundaries, one of the things that I've learned is that, and people may struggle with, is that I come off as like either emotionless or uncompassionate or angry.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Yeah. So like, and it's not that I'm like trying to be, it's because I'm so worked up about trying to set this boundary that I come off not the way that I need to. And so I think that was one of those incidents where it was like, I think it was something like you couldn't make one date work and then asked another date. And then I said, no, I can't. But then Tammy said, which is part of like your growth, was like, okay, you responded this way. Are you mad at me? Did something happen? Mm-hmm. And then I said, no, I'm just trying to set a boundary.
I don't even remember that happening.
You don't?
No.
Okay, I was like, no, I'm just trying to set a boundary.
Isn't that weird? See, that's stuck in your mind and I don't even remember
really?
it. No.
And then you were like, Oh, I totally get that because I really struggle with setting boundaries too. Like absolutely.
Which is the total
Like,
truth.
and that was their exchange.
Yeah, and I mean, I always try to have compassion. I think about things more when I like send you a text or send you a message. I think, is this important right now? Do I need to
Right.
do this right at this very second, or can this wait?
Right.
Or can I make an appointment? Not an appointment, but well, can I make an appointment with Megan? No, but set up a
Yeah.
time where she's not busy, she's not driving,
Yeah.
she's not with her family. You know, like can we schedule a half an hour of
Yeah.
so we can, like we did the other day.
Yeah, we've been doing that more actually. Like you've been messaging, like, can you
Yeah.
call me or whatever? And actually, I messaged you when all
Yeah,
that stuff
yeah.
happened. I called you or whatever.
Yeah, and that's part of boundaries too. Is remembering that everybody, you may not know what everybody else has going on in their life.
Yes, I mean, one thing that with our friendship that really stuck with me is there were people in your life. And I'm not going to get specific, but there were people in your life, when someone maybe is off work on disability like you are, people have these kind of perceived notions that, oh, they're just home doing whatever and they're not doing anything. And so something Tammy had run into is, sometimes people would just like come over and expect to hang out, like, or expect to go do something. So it wasn't like, hey, Tammy, are you free to do this? Or hey, Tammy, do you want to do this? It was like, hey, Tammy, let's go do that. And while I'm sure you were excited to go on adventures and everything else, there's that like, it's like not an ask. It's like, oh, you're doing nothing. What are you talking about? You're just sitting at home. But that's not that. A, that might not be the case. And B, she may not want to go anywhere. Like,
Yeah. And sometimes I feel like that. I feel like because of being on disability and being home,
Right.
and people think that exactly like that
Yeah.
you're not doing anything or that you don't have anything on your plate. And if I could show you my book, my schedule,
you are super busy, like with the meetings.
but I'm
and stuff.
involved with a lot of things that are like Zoom meetings or disability advocacy and stuff like that, which a lot of people that are involved in my life might not know about or may not be aware that
She is like
I try to
an
keep
advocate.
I try to keep busy because
yeah,
I think it's important to keep your mind sharp, and
absolutely.
it gives you a purpose, because you can very easily fall into the trap. And I mean, I have a hard time with this, with depression and
Yeah.
anxiety. You can easily fall into the trap of not getting out of bed, not
For
doing
sure.
anything. And that happens. That might happen to me 3 days a week. But,
Yep.
the rest of the week, I have to make myself do things.
Yeah, no, and I think that's so it's like, again, it's trying to like, it's hard because I know, like, in my head, if I were in that situation, I would feel like, okay, I need to be clear to whoever it is or whoever the person is that I don't appreciate you like coming kind of demanding my time, but I would love it if you ask. And then, so if I were to say, starting with the boundaries, I would be like, I'd probably come off at like, please don't show up at my house and demand. Like, and it might sound angry, but it's like I'm so worked up about trying to set it that it really does come across like as emotionless. And so
Yeah, and I have a hard time. Like, that's one of the things.
yeah,
It's like, well, this happened yesterday, and this is an example of setting boundaries and how I struggle with it.
yeah,
I was here, and I was busy. I was on the phone. I had a lot of medical stuff yesterday that I was dealing with, and I was on the phone, and then all of a sudden, bang, bang, bang at the door. And it's the plumber. And
Oh, dear
I look out
God.
and I see the plumber. So anyways, I'm on the phone with the doctor's office, and the plumber's at the door. So instead of just leaving him there, I go answer the door. And he says, oh, the landlord sent me here to fix the sink. I said, well, nobody told me. And he goes, oh, okay, I'll come back. So then I shut the door, and then my mind goes, oh, no, you've disappointed him. So I opened the door back, and I'm like, never mind, just come in. And
Yeah.
then, but I did say, when the landlord finally got a hold of me, I did say, next time I would appreciate if you'd give me proper notice.
yeah.
Because I think the same thing. The landlord assumes that just because I'm here and I don't have a job,
That
that I'm available.
Waltz on in.
People can come whenever they want.
Yeah,
Whereas really, legally, he has to give me 24 hours notice.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, and that's where I struggle. If someone's
Yeah.
at my door, I feel like I have to answer it. But really, I don't have to answer it.
Yeah. And I mean, not only that, and this might sound old-fashioned, but it's not old-fashioned really. It's just the reality of this world. As someone who is sensitive to like sexual violence,
Yes.
who is someone who has worked with many victims, who, you know, I have personal experiences myself, like, that for me, like, if just envisioning that
Well, it
would trigger me.
It did, and that was the thing. But I was so overwhelmed with so many things going on at the same time.
For sure.
The only thing that was kind of that made it less worse was I knew the plumber, and he had been here before, and he was a nice guy. Normally, whenever anything like that has to happen, I always make sure that somebody else is here with me.
Yeah, so like that is definitely a boundary.
Yes.
And I'm glad that you emailed your landlord.
Yeah, and I just text him back, and when he texts me, he goes, "Oh, the plumber's coming over." I said, "He's already here." You know, I said, "Next time I'd appreciate if you'd give me proper notice."
Cue the eye roll.
Yeah. But I mean, this happens on the regular. So.
But really, like if you are, I mean, I don't want to like anybody, regardless of gender or sexuality, you're at risk. But like, you know, you're
letting strange people in your house,
yeah.
and I'm here alone.
Yeah.
And I mean, other than the fact that he was here before and did plumbing work.
Yeah.
And seemed like a nice guy. But I mean, I don't know him from.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
He could be an axe murderer.
Absolutely.
I'm sure he's not. If you're listening, plumber, you're cool. I don't even know what your name is, but
she survived anyway. There's no axes around anywhere.
But then I had to cut my conversation off with the doctor's office
which was important.
Which was very important, but it was very personal information that I didn't want him listening to.
Yeah. Yeah, see? It's so hard. It's like, for someone who is a people pleaser, like you said, you closed the door and you were like, no,
and then I opened it again because I felt bad.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, to be able to sort of set those things in place.
And it was totally me because he said, "No problem. I'll come back another time. No problem."
Yeah.
And I should have just let him go. And it totally was.
I totally get it.
It was totally me. It was nothing to do with him.
Get it.
He wasn't pushy in any way.
I completely get it.
Anyway.
It's so funny how, like, some people would, like, move. This is one of the biggest contrasts this is one thing I'm really almost jealous. So Richard does struggle with boundaries, but one thing I'm almost jealous of him for is, like, he would say no and close the door and not think anything of it.
Oh my God.
Like, I can't even fathom.
Even if I did that, I would be... I would be playing that over and over in my head thinking I'm going to get kicked out of here, I'm going to get whatever, right? I would have a million scenarios in my head that, one, are not legally, binding, and two, probably would never happen, but... but that's immediately... And I would spend hours thinking about that.
Yeah, no, like, Richard's really, like, I mean, in some aspects, he's really, like, he needs to work on the boundaries thing, but at most times, like, he is able just to... Like, he has this thing where he doesn't feel like he has to, like, owe anybody anything necessarily. And I feel like I owe people the world.
Do you think it's because we struggled with things in our childhood and things like that? Like,
oh, yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. And I think, too, I mean, even if you want to bring it back to weight.
Yes.
Like, there's a million things that I could...
insecurity of everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like, have you ever heard of the song Fat Funny Friend? Mm-mm. Or Funny Fat Friend or Fat Funny Friend?
Who sings it?
Maddie Zan, I think.
Okay.
Her first name's Maddie. And the song, like, it's so good. It's also heartbreaking. It's like, basically, like, I'm always on the sideline. Like, I'm kind of there for that, like, that punchline. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, because we're as, like, a fat person, like, or living with a fat body, you're already at a disadvantage and you're already at risk that someone isn't going to like you, or if they're mad at you, the first thing they're going to say to you is, well, you're fat anyway, or you're ugly and fat, or that will be their first kind of insult. You will do almost anything to not hear that insult.
I have had that in the dating world.
Yes. Yep.
As soon as you set a boundary with someone, or don't immediately, want to do exactly what they want to do, then they get nasty.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to F your fat body anyway.
Yeah, you can think of exactly who I mean by that.
Yeah. I can.
Yeah.
Screw him.
Yeah. If you're listening. But yeah, and that's what you think.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts you right off at the knees, and you're just like, you feel worthless, you feel insecure, you feel like you're not as important as everybody else,
Yeah, for sure.
It's terrible.
Yeah, so like to have to be able to set because oftentimes, especially if people are used to you not setting any boundaries or guidelines or setting expectations for how you are treated or simply saying no. If people are not used to that, I will tell you right now, the moment you do, people will not be happy. And
I've experienced that.
Yeah, so because and it's kind of like, sometimes people say when you start work, never go above and beyond, do the absolute bare minimum when you start a job, because if you exceed, and this is my problem all the time.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
If you overachieve, if you're the shining star, that's then the expectation. So same for personal relationships, professional, academic relationships, whatever, same thing.
And I can, especially you talking about wanting to become pregnant soon and stuff.
Yeah.
I can remember back to my job that I was at, and it was that way. I was the person, I was there half an hour before the place opened, and I went in and I made sure everything was ready for everybody, and I was the last person to leave at night, and then I got pregnant. And then
you needed to cool it off.
I had to leave work early for, a medical appointment or stuff. And it was a big deal.
How dare you?
And then when I went on maternity leave, I ended up going back early because they almost drove me crazy.
Yeah.
And I missed out on a lot of things with my son.
Yeah.
Because he was in daycare or he was in childcare. And I was working long hours. And I felt like I was just running for nothing. And I'm thinking of you, and I'm so thankful that there is now a 1-year maternity leave, because back when I had my son, there wasn't. I missed it by just a couple of years.
Yeah.
But, and...
They actually give you 18 months now.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you,
Take
take it all. Take it all and take your 8 weeks sick leave on top of that. I'm telling you right now. You work that system and you work it good.
Yeah, really though.
No, but
really though.
Truthfully, I'm going to tell you something about it. If you have a child, you will not know until they get older that you cannot get that time back, and you will regret if you don't spend that time with them.
Yeah, no, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
If you have the opportunity and you can do it, and I believe everybody can do it. They may have to change their habits and spending habits and things like that if they have to make less money.
Yeah.
But that time with your children, that's a boundary that you need to set.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's again, that work-life balance, especially I've witnessed in, social work field is people really because, usually you're going into a social work field because you generally care. I mean, there's lots of social workers who literally don't care and could care less. But most of the ones that I tend to gravitate towards are the ones that are really passionate and care, and therefore, take those calls at midnight from clients or other workers because they care, right? But that ultimately leads to burnout or missing moments with family or missing moments with friends or missing moments for yourself, right? And so, like I said, but once you kind of set that expectation and then you start saying no, even if you're working even a little bit above what other workers are doing, it's still seen as, well, what's wrong? Or why are you doing it that way? Or why you're not performing like you were? Even though you're doing either just the bare minimum or you're doing a little above. And so the same thing with friends and family. When you start to set those boundaries, even if I didn't come off angry or whatever, people would still be
I don't remember you ever One time, I remember you being angry.
Yeah.
During COVID, when we were apart.
Yes.
We were angry. Both of us were angry.
Very angry. I don't even know if that was a boundary setting.
No, some of us were unmedicated, and some of us were angry.
Oh my dear God.
So that's a story for another time.
Day. But yeah, no, I think with boundaries, like, you know, setting it mainly with my I would say setting it up with my family. Like, we've talked a lot, like, in therapy and stuff. It's so funny because when you go to therapy, so like when something's bothering me, so something as simple as when I get home from work, it's like nobody has talked to anybody all day. And all of a sudden, everybody just wants Megan. And it's like I spend my day talking to people, dealing with heavy stuff.
And you just want to decompress.
And I just want to decompress. But everybody, like, wants Megan. And so a lot of the time in the past, it's like, okay, I'll sit on the couch, I'll talk. And it's not that I don't want to talk to my family. I love my family. I want to talk to them, obviously.
Of course, yes.
But, you know, normally it would be like, okay, it's still not my time. Like, my only time at one point in life is like when I'd wait for Richard to go to sleep, and it'd be like I'd have like a half hour before I drifted off. And it'd be like the
Richard,
most
please
blissful.
Go to sleep.
Actually, actually, this is funny. Like, this is funny. So we went to the Dome this weekend.
Okay.
Like,
yes, the glamping thing.
Yes. So they didn't have a TV, so we brought the monitor with like the whatever monitor. We hooked it up.
I'm the nature girl, and she's the non-nature girl.
I had plenty of fun in nature this
weekend.
Did you? Yes.
Okay,
that's for another podcast. But yeah, so anyway, the monitor, the volume didn't go up very high, so we had like subtitles on, and I'm deaf in one ear basically, and he's like, well, can you hear it? And I had to say to him, well, actually at one point, you know, my only kind of me time was when you fell asleep, so I got really accustomed to watching TV with the subtitles on.
Oh my God.
So I can watch TV like with it like as a whisper with the subtitles. Yeah,
me too.
Because I was so used to like Richard being, I didn't want to wake him up.
And you know what it was with me?
What?
And I still do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to disturb anybody else, like any other tenant in the building. And I'm like,
we're a mess.
And then
we're a mess.
I do it. I'll turn the TV down so low that I can barely hear it, and I've got the subtitles on, and I'm thinking, why am I paying to rent this place? I might as well move out into the parking lot because I can't do anything. I'm scared to flush the toilet at night because
so funny.
I don't want to wake anybody up.
That is so funny.
But that's how you become, like, you're such a people pleaser.
Yeah. So anyway, so through therapy, like, we're talking about that. We're, you know, I'm like, you know, especially with Richard, like, we're talking about what will kind of help me, you know, with our relationship, but also with my relationship with my family or my in-laws. And so one of the things we talked about was like, after I get home from work, like, to me to be able to just go upstairs and read my Bridgerton or my romance books, or sometimes I just like lay down. You know, I also learned
that's the best part of the day,
right? Just to get like even 20 minutes of just silence, because when you're constantly around people, sometimes you just want silence. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was a bit of a struggle to set through. But I also learned about boundaries, that sometimes you can set boundaries sometimes you have to set boundaries without being like vocal about it. So like sometimes somebody's not safe, or sometimes there's people in your life that literally just will not follow a boundary. They will not. And they will get angry and they will not follow it.
That's how I've lost relationships.
Yeah.
Even close relationships, family members and things, because of that.
Yeah.
When you set a boundary, they just try to run you over, you know, like it's difficult. And ultimately you have to make the choice. Again, it's very, very hard, but.
Yeah. Yeah. And like one thing that one of my, so one of the therapists that I was going to, so like, cause I see my individual, and then Richard and I go like very rarely, but every couple of months to a couples counselor. For a tune-up. It's funny enough that we don't really talk about our own relationship. We talk about the external factors a lot of the times. But one thing that she had said is Richard and I were discussing something like about a family member, and it wasn't that we wanted to kind of like vocalize the boundary because we just knew that it wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. So what she had said was that she actually has a family member who really, once they start drinking, they get kind of nasty. So this family member knows that after a certain amount of drinks, no matter what, she leaves. She exits. She removes herself from the situation. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like they had like a sit down conversation and she says, if you drink 2 glasses of wine, I'm leaving. She just does that. Okay, I'm sensing that this is not a good situation. I'm removing myself. And so
that's very
an example.
Smart.
Yeah, that's an example of setting a boundary that's not like saying, hey.
Not everything has to be said.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Or it can be said in lighter terms, or you can kind of use your body language. Like, yeah, so I guess I just want to get across that it's not always like, I don't want you to do this, or you're not able to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to
be harsh. It doesn't have to be harsh like that, yeah.
Yeah. And it may take
practice.
And something I found too is that it may take several times of setting that boundary and reinforcing the boundary. Because especially if people have been in your life for a long time and they're used to you being a certain way. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that,
well,
it's so hard.
It is, but it's like parenting, right? It's like the child who wants the cookie is like, give me the cookie, no. Give me the cookie, no. Give me the cookie, oh, fine, here. The moment you let go.
That was me.
The moment you were like, okay, I'm going to relinquish this boundary, they know, okay, I only have to ask like 3 times. Right? So like it just, and it's so hard to kind of maintain that. And boundaries, and the other thing is boundaries are flexible, right? It's kind of like I want to almost say like consent, like, consent is super, like there is no point in time where you can revoke or there's any point in time you can revoke your consent is what I mean to say. Anytime. Like, it doesn't matter what the situation is, you can revoke it. Same thing with boundaries. You can, maybe something at that certain period of life doesn't feel great, and maybe other times it does, like,
I think what people have to remember is there's ebbs and flows to everything.
Of course.
And you always have the right to change your mind.
Absolutely.
Speak your mind and make your own decisions for your own self, for your own betterment.
Absolutely.
No matter what you've said in the past, or a decision you might have made in the past may not be relevant now. Mm-hmm. So you always have that choice, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a lot of us are afraid to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it could like literally. I mean, this wouldn't be an example in my case necessarily, but like, say for example, you had an estranged friend. Let's just say an estranged friend. And, you recognize that they were quite toxic and you wanted to like say whatever, right? But then maybe they received a lot of help, or you're in a different stage in your life and you realized that you also needed help or whatever. And then you wanted to like open the door a little bit. Like, again, that would be an example of like flexibility if you wanted it. Like, nothing's set in stone.
Yeah. It's like I said, you always have the right to change your mind, make a different decision, set a different boundary.
Yeah. Do you have a boundary story you want to share? I'm trying to think of one. I don't think I...
Yes.
Story time.
Yeah. Well, okay, this is to do with someone who's my friend who also became a sexual partner. And it morphed into... We were very close, and then the person had issues that were very,
I was like, I thought
where I'm going now.
I know now. Okay. I was like,
so the person,
for a second.
the person became very aggressively angry and violent, and had some serious things going on that were not that I did not want in my house.
That were unsafe.
It was unsafe, and as someone, that's lived through some things that were not nice, I had to set a boundary, and I've had to set the boundary multiple times and reinforce the boundary, and, you know, and keep reinforcing it. And I'll tell you, that has been one of the most difficult things that I have ever had to do, because I really cared about the person.
Yeah.
As a friend and someone that, you know, that I was intimately involved with. And I feel like I still owe that person something, and legitimately I don't, but it's a really, really hard boundary to set when it's someone that's very, very close to you.
Yeah, I can't imagine, honestly. Like, the closer someone is...
Mm-hmm. And the more they know you and know about you, and... Yeah.
That's why, like, I just sometimes think, when things get complicated like that, it's so hard.
Yep.
It is so hard.
So I've ultimately come to the boundary with this particular person that I've had to completely eliminate them from my life and not allow them in my life. And as you well know, we've had to block and block and block and block and block and block because they won't give up. But yeah.
That's the same. So, like, a boundary for me would be, and I hope you don't mind me discussing this, but, like, so, you know, you sometimes get, or not get people, but you employ people to do different things, right?
Yes.
Like, yes. So one of my boundaries is that, like, if Tammy needs, like, to that thing that we went to, that, you know what I'm talking about?
The advocacy thing?
Yeah. So technically, like, she could offer to pay me for the drive, and she did, but I will never accept money, like, in that way, because that, for me, is, like, that's the hard line, and that's where, even though we're in business together, you would think it would be different, because we do have, like, a transactional relationship in that way, like, we split money or whatever when we do lives, but yeah, for me, that would be a boundary. It's like, nope, I want to do this as a friend, and I never want you to feel like that's blurring the friendship, you know? And so that, so that's, like, I think that's one of the most recent boundaries I've had. Yeah. She's soaking it in.
No, I'm thinking about it because from my end of things, I just think, like, it would help towards gas. I wasn't thinking of it.
But she did pay for some gas. You did pay for gas.
I did for half the gas.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, I guess, what's in my mind when I offer that. It's
for sure.
But again, and it's your prerogative to decide that you want to do that for your friends. So.
And I did say, I was like, yes, I will take you. No, I do not want to be paid.
Yeah, because when I asked her, it was a nice night.
It was a really nice night.
Yes.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And, you know, having the talk there and the talk back, because we haven't been, you know, like, we haven't had a lot of time to spend together lately.
Yeah.
So getting that time was nice too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a good event. It was an informative event.
Yeah, for anybody who's interested, it's an organization. They're nationwide in Canada. Disability Without Poverty is where you can find them.
It's a really good initiative. Like, if you're Canadian, or even if you're not Canadian, you should check it out, because it's important.
It really is. It's right now they're working on shaping what the Canada Disability Benefit is going to look like that the government is offering, and they're trying to up the ante and help people that are living in poverty get out of that poverty, you know. I think a lot of times people think about people with disabilities as living in poverty, and that they should live in poverty or whatever, but they're trying to get more dignity, I guess, for people who are in poverty.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, I think maybe we'll just quickly each say, like, kind of advice for setting a boundary. So a piece of advice that I was given through therapy that I found helpful is, like, you know, when you're not used to setting boundaries, you know, setting them all the time can be overwhelming and honestly not really realistic. So, like, picking somebody who you would feel slightly comfortable setting a boundary with is helpful. And then also thinking about, like, I have a huge problem with, I think it's, like, catastrophizing, right? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like.
Same.
Yeah. So, like, if I say no, all of the sudden the world will literally end and I'm the worst person in the entire world. So really talking to yourself about like, okay, so if I say, no, I don't feel comfortable going to the ball game, really what is the worst that's actually going to happen? They're going to tell me, I'm disappointed that you're not going to go. Okay. You know what I mean? Like talking yourself through it. So I would, just pick like one, no more than two people and kind of put them as like your, I don't want to say like the project. People aren't projects, but like.
No, they're the workers to build the fence.
Yeah, they're workers. Yeah, exactly. You know, start small. Start with like not a meaningless, boundaries aren't meaningless, but start small. That's all I'm saying.
Smaller boundaries, not a huge boundary right off the bat.
Yeah.
My advice, and I learned from my DBT skills, was make a pros and cons list, especially when it comes to boundaries, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to come up with the pros are going to be less than the cons.
Yeah.
And it's going to kind of solidify for you that yes, you're doing the right thing by setting this boundary.
Yeah.
So that has always helped me to write things out and look at it on paper.
I love writing out things. Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
if you are someone who struggles with like catastrophizing or thoughts and stuff, there is an app that I just learned about called FreeCBT. That's what it's called.
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah, FreeCBT. And it talks you through, you write down your thought, and then there's a whole list of things what it could be, whether it's like catastrophizing or there's like a variety of different things it could be. And then you challenge the thought and then you write a new thought and you can save it and you can look at it later. So that might be a way to like process some of your thoughts. Anyway, if you're interested, that's an app that might be helpful. I'll post it on the description actually, in case anyone's interested in it.
The other thing is, if you are, like Megan said, someone like us who catastrophizes and has problems with boundaries, CBT and DBT are great courses if you can get into one through mental health in Nova Scotia, or wherever you are listening to us. If you have the opportunity to take a CBT or DBT course, it's great for setting boundaries, and it helps you learn a lot of skills to put in your toolbox.
For sure. And therapy.
Yes.
And therapy.
And therapy.
All right. So with that, our next, I know we said we were going to talk about sex really soon. There was a bit of a mishap.
Nothing sexual.
Nothing sexual. We are really hoping to get that to you soon. We might do 2 podcasts with that topic. Maybe just one with us and then one with the special guest.
Yeah.
Because I know people are really excited about it. So we're really hoping in the next 2 weeks that we will have that out. Because I know a lot of people are asking about it.
I know people keep asking me about it too.
Yeah, people are wanting, I think it's such a big issue just because, you know.
Fat people are not supposed to enjoy sex or have sex or, you know.
Be sexual or
or people have sexual attraction to you.
Yeah, unless you're a freak or something, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fatty chaser or what is it?
Chubby chaser.
Anyway.
All right. We love you guys. Thank you for listening.
Mwah!
No more hiding, no more feeling small. We're taking up space, standing proud and tall. Our voice is strong, our stories to be heard, challenging the stereotypes.